Hello, hello.
Hi,
How are you, Anoop?
I'm good. I am so happy to be here with you right now. It's like my heart's so warm right now. Thank you for doing this.
I am so excited to have this conversation with you. And I just wanted to say that, we tried this a couple of weeks ago and with technology, it just didn't work out. But it
But
is
we're here
such a
now.
pleasure to have you here tonight, to
Yeah.
be with your spirit. I love you so much, and you've been such an incredible, powerful human being in my life. You've been one of my coaches in one of my self development
Mm.
courses, and yeah, I love who you are. I love your tenacity, your resilience, your warmth. I love your nurturing spirit, and I love yeah, just how you show up as a man.
Wow, you're
Thank
making me
you so
blush
much for
now.
joining me.
Thank you. Thank you. And can I just say, I love who you are. I really like you're this powerhouse woman who can go from here to here. Like you can do anything and everything. And I just love who you are, like, not just for the world, but for like your girls, like people in your community. It's just, and for me, like you give me that spirit of that inspiration of this is it. This you can do anything you want. When Maria's around, I got you, baby. That's it. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you. So I want to start today's talk with just, you know, being what are we grateful for? What are you grateful for today, Anoop?
Yeah. Today, I'm grateful for family, for
Mm,
relationships, for communication. I'm grateful
mm,
for nature outside, oxygen we breathe. I'm grateful for my body. I'm grateful for this conversation. I'm grateful for friends. And I'm really grateful for my imagination and my thoughts. I'm really grateful that I
mm.
can have that. And I'm grateful for the word love, and not just a word because it's not a word, but love. Like what love is, the feeling you get when you love something or someone or even yourself. That's what I'm grateful for.
Thank you.
Yeah. What about
Thank
you?
you. I am grateful for life. I am grateful for my daughters. I am grateful for the experiences that I get to experience every day.
Mm,
I'm grateful that I have the kind of human beings in my life that when things show up, I have the space to be, and I have trusting listening ears to hold me up and to really see me as a big human being and as a leader, and to encourage me and to really embrace me and embrace whatever I'm dealing with. And I feel so blessed to have that in my
mm.
life, and you're one of
Wow.
those people who's that space for me.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I don't know if there's anyone on the Facebook Live right now. And if there is, I would love them to share like really what they're grateful for today because it's
Yes,
important.
if you can share. So we have Nisha. Hello, Nisha. How are you? And Raven has joined us.
What?
So put in the comments, Raven, Nisha, Ria, what are you grateful for today? Tell us.
Love it.
So I wanted to start the conversation because you mentioned something really powerful, like that you're grateful for love.
Mhm.
And love is very, these emotions are very subjective. What does love mean to you?
What does love mean to me? Love
Yeah.
means to me to actually be able to be yourself,
Mm,
be able to be whole and complete with who you are, like perfect with who you are, accepting who you are, right? Rather than those judgments we have. So for love, it means that you are love. You're the embodiment of love. That's it. There is no,
mm,
for me, there's no explanation. It's just a feeling. You can look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I'm love. I love myself. Or I love this
mm,
person. Yeah,
mm.
that's it for
Thank
me.
you.
Yeah. What about you?
Thank you. Love. My goodness. So love for me is just what comes from within me that I can share with the people that surround me.
Mm,
So is love for me is like who I show up to be for the people in my life. And yeah, and really embracing having compassion and embracing, having an open mind, and really learning every day more and more how to love unconditionally, how to be
Mm-hmm.
able to be with another human being without trying to change them or fix something about them, and just being with who they are as a human being, like having that level of compassion and an open mind to embrace what another person is dealing with in their own life, or how they show up, who they are. To
Right.
me, that is what love is. And another component of what love is to me is also um, seeing the people in my life as the leaders that they are in their own life. So
Mm.
I something that resonated with me that I've adopted recently is just seeing the God in everyone.
Seeing the God
Uh,
in everyone.
yes,
Wow, I
seeing
love that.
God in everyone. For me, that's what love is.
That's amazing. Well, you just like warm my heart there. That's amazing. Thank you for that.
Thank you. So tonight we're talking about men and women and how we behave, how we interact with each other. The questions are not coming up on that screen, so I'm checking my phone.
Mm,
So Nisha says she's grateful for her family and friends. Thank you.
nice.
Um, so we want to start the conversation by talking about, first of all, what the stereotypes are that we grow up with. You know, culturally, we grow up with different ways of being. We adopt the way our parents behave, and there's certain rules or certain ways that we are taught that we should be behaving as men and women,
Hmm.
right? So like for women, you know, we women grow up with this notion that as we get older, we need a man in our lives. We have to get married by a certain age
Right.
range. We should be having kids, and we are really there to fulfill on being a wife, being a mom.
Hmm.
And something that's very present for women is being sacrificial. So
Being
leaving ourselves
sacrificial.
last, that being a powerful, strong woman who really loves her husband and her kids is a woman who puts herself last, sacrifices everything, always puts them first.
Mm,
And yes, it's very important to put your family first. Family is for me is the most important thing. And within that, something that has been sort of, you know, put to the side that we don't learn as we grow up is loving ourselves, accepting ourselves,
right.
be feeling like we, the whole of us, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's okay because we're human beings.
Right.
And you know, I believe for both men and women, we don't grow up with that sense of notion that self-love is important,
Hmm.
right?
We don't
and
know.
and a lot of the time we also look at self-love just as self-care, and that's one component of self-love. So you know, for women, you know, going to a spa, or doing a workout, or taking a bath, or reading a book, these are all meditation, and these are all amazing things to do.
Hmm.
And self-love also has to do with doing the inner work, like doing work to really, really discover who we are, what we want as human beings. Um, what are our core values? What do we believe in? What
Right.
aligns with us in our life? How is it that we want to structure our lives to live an optimal life? You
Hmm.
know, to live a life that when we get up, we're just excited. We have this zest and this aliveness for life. Um, and that's something that I find it's not something that we get taught as we're growing up.
So what, let me
So
just ask you, why do you find that self love is important? Like on the side of women, why is that important?
for me, I believe that self-love is the foundation of
Hmm.
everything. Is the foundation of life. You know, when you're building a home,
Hmm.
and you dig the hole and you put the concrete to set the foundation of the home so that
Right.
the home can stand. For me, self-love is the foundation, because when both men and women love themselves, they're whole, they're complete. There's nothing that they need from anyone else.
Hmm.
It's not about, you know, it takes away having been validated.
Right.
So I find that a lot of women need validation, in order for them to feel like they have self-worth, like from they have to receive validation outside of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But when we love ourselves, that validation is not required, it's not needed. It's appreciated when somebody, like, if you acknowledge me, I love and appreciate the acknowledgement.
Right.
However, I have self-love within me that I stand for myself,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't actually require validation to know who I am and to trust myself and to stand my ground and to stand in my own personal power.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I find that for myself, when I come from that power, then that's when I can actually say to another human being, that's when I can actually create boundaries
Mm-hmm.
for myself. That's where I actually create alignment with my own core values. And I
Right.
can then communicate to somebody else, well, this is the way that I want to be loved. This is the way that I want to have, I want to create my life.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So then it gets us back to ourselves, to really being authentic
Right.
and vulnerable and true to ourselves.
Wow.
And for me, that has been very, very valuable and important. It's what has actually been the most powerful thing in my life for me to transform everything that I've transformed in the last
Mm-hmm.
5 years.
Love it. Thank you for sharing all of that. I love it. So, I want to talk about really stereotypes with men, right?
Yes, please.
And before I go on to that, like I mean, I know there's a lot of people that know who I am, but to go on to like really, my foundation is that through communication, men and women, whether in relationships or not, can always have a life they create, and they
Absolutely.
can actually whatever comes out of their mouth is the world they create, right?
Yes.
So communication is definitely foundation. But for men, there's like for so many men out there, there is this stereotype that they have to be the sole provider. They have to be the one who's earning the money, bringing the money in, making sure the house, that the house is paid for, make sure you got a nice car, deal with all the bank accounts and the bills. And that's a lot of work, right? And these are stereotypes. So it's not like, there are more men out there now that are going the other way. And also they need to be educated. A man has to have this degree or has to have like this financial position. He
Mm-hmm.
has to have money in his pocket. Um,
Mm-hmm.
he has to be the protector. You have to protect. You're the one that has to protect the family. You're the one that has to protect the kids. The
Yeah.
finances and stuff. And then like
Mm-hmm.
a big one for me is a man. The stereotypes is a man's not emotional. Like how
Mm-hmm.
many couples go out there, how many women have friends or, other male have male friends, how many times do they talk about emotions? I know when I go, hanging out with a friend of mine, we don't sit and talk about emotions. We don't, have these conversations about how I'm feeling or what's going on with
Mm-hmm.
me. It's very
Mm-hmm.
superficial. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I want to ask a question to all the men out there, right? Really, what's the impact of not being vulnerable? Like, really, not just for you, but what's the impact of being vulnerable, not being vulnerable, and putting it all aside? Like, really look into your lives and see what's the impact in my life? What's the impact on people around me and myself?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
know for me, it's like having not being vulnerable can be very heavy, very
Mm-hmm.
significant,
Mm-hmm.
very lost. It's like, there's a lot on the shoulder of a man because
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they choose it like because as we grow up in this world with our parents and our grandparents and everything else, we get taught that men are supposed to be like this. You're not allowed to be emotional. You shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one who's going to bring
Yeah.
the money in. You're the one who's going to take care of the finances and stuff. And it's a hard thing for men to do, right? And
Yeah.
not just in your own life, but in actual even relationships. It's
Yes.
that there's we're going to touch upon expectations and reality and stuff, but it's so hard for a man who can't be himself. He has to be something else because there's an expectation of who he has to be.
Yes.
And so I want the men out there to know, be who you are, be real, be raw.
Be
Yeah,
authentically you.
that's it.
I want to talk about, I want to touch on what you just said because it is so, so important.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that men are really expected, right? To take care of everything, take care of the finances, be the strong one in the family, deal with anything that comes up that may be negative, anything, any circumstances that the family faces. The man is supposed to be strong. He's supposed to take care of it. He's supposed to,
Hmm.
and that puts a lot of pressure on one human being, to be
Absolutely.
a certain way. And on top of that, men are not encouraged to be vulnerable. They're not encouraged to express their emotions and their feelings and just be vulnerable, right?
Hmm.
Be a human being.
Right.
And for me, that has been something that I've engaged in different conversations. I've talked to you and several other men that I know about vulnerability, about
Hmm.
the nurturing expressions of a man, and I myself think that's so beautiful.
Right.
And I know that out there in society, something that I want to talk to the ladies about is that we say that we want a man who's going to listen, a man who's going to be vulnerable, a man who's going to be nurturing. And when that man shows up vulnerable and nurturing and all of that, we sit there and go, but I want my man to be strong, and I want him to be powerful, and I want him to be this, and this guy's not like that. So I don't know about that.
Right.
Um, so like for myself, I'm gonna call myself out. In the past, that has been something that was there for me, and I think that's why some women go for the bad boys, or whatever
Hmm.
label you want to call them. And and I think it's part of the dynamic. I think that when we choose to love a whole human being, it comes with all of that. It
Right.
comes with a man being able to be powerful in a place of safety for us, and strong, and all those beautiful elements. But it also has to do with a man being able to be vulnerable, a man being able to say, hey, I can't handle all of this at the same time. Like we're a team, right?
Hmm.
And not just fall into the defaults of the stereotypes, but just actually deal with things powerfully together,
Right.
whether it's a dynamic of a husband and wife, or people in relationship, or like parents with their kids, or friends. It's just having the openness to love a whole human being, how the human being shows up, as opposed to have a filter of this is how you're supposed to behave, and having
Hmm.
expectations. And I think that's where we all fall into um changing people, or wanting to change people, is because we grow up with certain expectations of how other people are supposed to behave in our lives.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, that for me in the past, like, got me into hot waters.
Right. Wow.
Because like, I used to believe that I could just change someone, or like, something that I no longer subscribe to is all these women's magazines that have
Hmm.
articles. Oh, how to make your man do this, how to how to
Right.
how to make your man do that, how to have the most magical sex, and how to do it's
Hmm.
like I laugh now, because all those are strategies for control and manipulation.
Hmm.
If you
Yeah.
really look, if you just break it down, all it is a strategy to be able to control and manipulate another human being,
Right.
instead of actually discovering and being vulnerable, and just dealing with what's there, and not these expectations that we grow up with. Another thing that women grow up with is the expectation that a man is supposed to take care of me,
Hmm.
right? A man
Hmm.
is there to provide, like you mentioned. And we then become these like damsels in distress, as a lot of Disney's movies show. Like, we need to
Hmm.
be saved, which creates victimhood,
Right.
right?
Right.
It's very disempowering as a woman.
Hmm.
And I find that for women, it then creates this space of not being able to speak their authentic selves. A lot of
Right.
women walk around without being their authentic selves. They hold back. They're not self-expressed.
Hmm.
Um, and and that's something that, you know, for myself, I really am on a journey to really empower women in that area.
I love that. I mean,
Yeah,
I love the self-expression side of things. But to really touch upon something, there are, I mean, men themselves, I mean, primarily, we do want to protect, we do want to nurture, we do want
absolutely.
to, but I mean, and then, I mean, nowadays, yeah, there are, you know, we are turning to men be more vulnerable and men be more open. But it does make a man feel good when he's protecting his, you know, tribe, whether it's his family, whether, you know, but there's
Absolutely.
also the factor of it's they can have a balance of everything. The balance of it
Mm,
all can be, I can be
mhm.
nurturing, I can be, you know, loyal, I can be protective to you as well. I mean, what better way to live a life where you can actually live a life of being authentic and not having to be to pretend, you know,
Yes.
who you are and who you're not, right?
Yes.
It's like
Absolutely.
you don't want to live a life like that, and we have so many of those types of
Hmm.
relationships out there. And that's my commitment as a relationship consultant, is to actually break through that and realize that through communication, you
Hmm.
know, and a man to be able to be vulnerable and be able to share what his feelings are opens up the space for the woman or the friend or the parent or whoever else to be able to have that space to talk, right? And we
Absolutely.
spoke earlier about space. So having that space is really just, if a man's going to close off, why would anyone else want to, why would you want to open up to these, like, to this conversation? It's like
Hmm.
when things
Hmm.
work the way they do and they work in sync and you can feel that there's a space of openness, vulnerability, it
Yes.
opens up everyone else. And that's my commitment, is when I'm hanging out with my friends, my guy friends, I want to talk about emotions and feelings as well as like everything else that we talk about, because then it's a true raw conversation,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for sharing that.
Hmm.
The next thing that I want to touch on is really what is commitment versus attachment.
Ooh, I
And
love that.
that's a yeah, that's a really
Right, I love that.
because yeah, like what does it look like to be committed in a relationship as opposed
Okay,
to being attached?
so I just want to touch upon something before we get into that, right?
Hmm.
Most people, not just men or women, but most people get into relationships. Some people, I won't say most, some people get into relationships because they're looking for what's in it for me. Like, what
Yes.
am I going to get out of this relationship,
Or
right?
what's missing over here that
Yeah,
that person's gonna give me?
like what lack, like, you know, most of us come from a sense of lack. And I had this conversation with someone like a
Yeah.
couple of weeks ago, and it really,
Yeah.
it was like, wow, because, you know, it could be something simple as, oh, my mom, you know, like cooking, oh, my mom has great cooking, now she has to be a great cook, kind of thing, like things like
Hmm.
that. You just, oh, you know, money, I don't have a lot of money, I want somebody with lots of money, or fancy car, kind of thing. It's like we tend to come from a sense of lack. What's lacking, what's going to be there for us, right? That's where the expectation and kind of reality comes into play. So I wanted to add that in before you spoke about commitment versus attachment, right? Just so we
Yeah.
create that context. So
Yeah.
commitment.
Absolutely.
So
Hmm.
commitment to me is, commitment is actually, that's the space where there's openness. Where when you're
Mm-hmm.
committed to something, it's open. There's so many
Hmm.
possibilities, right?
Yes.
You're committed to being in this relationship for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
You're committed
Hmm.
to, you know, supporting your kids. And if something goes off, if something doesn't work at this point, then even though what you do is you go back to your commitment. You're standing in that commitment. You're seeing that there's so
Yes.
many possibilities. While attachment, you know, if I lived in attachment, it's like, this is the way it's going to go. If it doesn't go this way, then it just doesn't work, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
there's no, it's constrained. You live in this constrained society of, you know,
Hmm.
I want my man to be this way. I want my house to be this way, rather than I'm committed that our relationship fulfills everything that we want, and I'm
Yeah.
going to work towards it, regardless of if there's a breakdown or not. We're still going to go
Yeah.
towards where we want to
Yeah.
go. That's it
Mm.
for me. That's what
Mm.
commitment and attachment means for me.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah,
You're
that's
welcome.
very powerful. I'm gonna add to that when it comes. I see commitment as really seeing the person as a whole human being. So like what that means to me is both men and women male have masculine and feminine energies. We're made up of both
Mm,
masculine and feminine energy. And so being loving towards both,
right,
and having that balance. And commitment for me is just renewing. It renews every day. It takes away the you belong to me,
right. Yeah, yeah.
right? Like for me in relationship, I don't own someone. They're not a piece of
Mm,
furniture. It's a human being that I'm dealing with. So for me, it's about renewing that commitment. It for me, it's so beautiful that I get to choose to be with someone, and somebody gets to choose to be with me. It's a
yeah.
choice. Like I
Choice.
choose. I
Yes.
get up and I choose every day,
Love it.
because every day we evolve. Every day we
Yeah.
change. Every day we transform. Every day we move forward, and it's about like having the commitment to get up that day and say, I choose you.
Yeah. And
Like
I
I
actually,
choose you for everything.
just to add something there, with my clients, what I do, and I actually get them to introduce themselves newly every day. It's
Every
like, hi,
day.
I'm Anoop. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Right? Because you get to commit to being, yourself newly
Yeah.
every day, and you get to discover them newly every day, and you get to
Yeah.
choose. So I love that. I love,
Yeah.
what commitment is for you.
Yeah. So for me, commitment is choosing that person every day. And it's a
Hmm.
choice. It's not an obligation. It doesn't come from obligation. I'm not obligated to be with that person. I choose that person.
Right.
And that has power.
Love it.
And the other thing is that by choosing them, then it doesn't have to do with changing them. It doesn't have to do with fixing them.
Hmm.
And you touched on something so valuable, which is communication, right? For me, commitment, being committed to someone, is actually having communication, because to me, communication is love.
Right.
When you communicate, you love,
Right.
right? And so, versus attachment. So, attachment for me comes from, again, not having the self love,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So, if I don't love myself, then there are going to be things. We already hold traumas from the past, from our childhood.
Right.
We hold everything of how we grew up, how we saw our parents' relationships be, how we saw relationships in society. It also comes from our past relationships. So when we don't take the time to really embrace our own light and darkness,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
love everything about ourselves, then how can we then go and love somebody else for everything that they are and however they show up in their life? Because we're not perfect. You
Right.
know, somebody's gonna disappoint you
Right.
in relationship. There's gonna be hurts sometimes.
Yeah.
And so it's about having that commitment and that love and that I choose you
Hmm.
to create the space to work it all out and to have the understandings. And when we come from choice, because we love ourselves, then we actually choose to be with somebody that aligns with our core values. We
Right.
don't have to have the exact same core values, but we have agreements within our core values, and they mesh.
Hmm.
And we also, um, you know we are aligned in our life purposes and what we want to achieve for the future in our lives.
Right.
And so, like, really having those conversations about all of that before we even get into a deep relationship with someone,
Yeah.
that all comes from self-love. And when we're attached, there's something missing. There are holes that we're trying to fill. And so
Hmm.
we want somebody to validate us. We want somebody to make us happy. We want somebody to be uh, that space, that thing that fills us up. Therefore, we're looking for what is going to fulfill us outside of us,
Right.
right? And then we
Yeah.
put all this pressure on another human being. If I can't be happy with my own soul on my own, and I've been in
Hmm.
my body for almost 47 years, how can I then expect you and Noop to make me happy?
Right.
Like, how can
Yeah.
I how can I hand over that huge job to you if I haven't been able to figure it out?
Right.
in all my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what creates that divide, right?
Mm,
It creates that space for blame and for you have to do this for me, and that's where the ownership comes in, and
right.
that's where the jealousy comes in, and that's where, if you're progressing and I'm not, I need to do something about that, and I'm going to be jealous and upset because I'm insecure.
Hmm.
Right. So that's why for me, the foundation to anything that we do in life is self-love,
Right.
is really owning and being authentic with who we are.
Right. How can actually, when it comes to owning and being authentic to who you are, how can actually, I mean, how can you accept who you are? Like, there are a lot of people that struggle with,
Mhm,
judgment of themselves, criticism. Or
mhm.
how can you, like, what are the things that you do when it comes to really accepting? Because I know for you, and I've known you for so long, and it's as soon as you say I love myself, and you say it with so much passion, so much power, that it like embodies who you are. So what do you do?
So what I started practicing in my life. So there's a few things that I started practicing in my life that made a huge difference for me.
Hmm.
One was to start doing the work to really look at the lies that I've told myself. So
Okay.
we have this internal dialogue. We talk to ourselves every day,
Right.
and we put ourselves down a lot. Like I, as a woman, used to put myself down a lot. I used to think that I was worthless. I used to think I was stupid. I used to think all kinds of things about
Hmm.
myself, that I wasn't capable of achieving certain goals. Um, I was very indecisive. I wasn't assertive. I didn't trust my own decisions because I feared failing and what others would think. And I
Right.
was a people pleaser.
Right.
So it was really owning all of that, taking a look, taking an inventory of my habits. So
Mm.
that's one thing that I did, was take an inventory of my habits and take an inventory of um, my relationships.
Hmm.
Right. So even when I ended my relationship with my ex-husband, I spent a good year working on what did I learn from that relationship. Who what am I responsible for? Because I
Right.
could go blame him for all that I want to blame him for.
Right.
I could make a huge list, and that's not going to make a difference, because when we choose to point the finger outside instead of look inside to see what doesn't work about the way
Hmm.
we respond to things, then that's where we get stuck.
Right.
Right. So it really took owning, the things that I did or didn't do in that relationship, the things that didn't work about my own behavior and the way
Hmm.
that I responded to the way that he behaved. And then taking responsibility for the impact that I create with others. I just had a
Right.
situation that happened on Wednesday that I was reminded about something that happened in the past, where I left somebody feeling hurt and in pain and upset at me.
Hmm.
And and I actually made a post about it this morning, because it's about always looking inside. So I
Right.
had to look inside and say, well, where was I responsible for this impact? And how
Hmm.
can I then now choose to behave? And like something that I still deal with is that when I'm faced with a conflict
Hmm.
and I'm uncomfortable, and especially when I think I'm right,
Right.
and when I think that somebody may be making something up, or the way that they received whatever was misunderstood, I get charged. I get emotionally
Hmm.
charged, and I get defensive, or I want to run away.
Right.
Like those are very, automatic things.
Hmm.
So it really has to do with learning what are my automatic things that I go to.
Right.
What are the behaviors that don't work in my life, that for me it's so easy,
Hmm.
right, to
Wow. I
go
love
there.
that.
And
Wow.
then being aware and say, oh, I'm going there. Okay, how am I going to then deal with this? I
Yeah.
always ask myself in every situation, how do I take responsibility for this? What did I have to do, in this situation? What actions did I take that gave
Hmm.
me this result? Because
Right.
are a reflection of my behavior.
Right. I love that. I love what you're saying, because it's really about awareness, really about being aware of
Completely
the
about
things.
awareness.
Because you spoke about like with like your ex, and stuff, and I
Mhm.
actually went through something very similar. Like I have been divorced for a while now, and I've got two kids, but
Mm-hmm.
My ex-wife could not speak to me because it was I'm gonna win. I'm gonna be, I'm gonna be better than you are. And there's an impact on that. I mean, there was a financial impact because we were going through course, and there's an impact on my kids, like my two kids, one's 18, one's 15.
Yes.
There's an impact on them because of all the stuff they dealt with, because it was about, and the reason I bring this up is because you talk about awareness, right? And where
Yes.
I can take responsibility for things. And
Mm-hmm.
after taking on myself, like
Mm-hmm.
really going inside and being like, where else has it shown up? Where else
Yes.
do I do this?
Yes.
Where else do I respond in a way that doesn't work for people? It's like,
Absolutely.
how do I actually, what does life look like differently now if I can
Mm.
own that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
not saying it's right or wrong, but just own it and accept it and not make it mean anything.
Absolutely.
And what can you do when you bring in the feeling of love and just the power of being self-love out there? And it's
Mm.
been such a journey, to
Mm-hmm.
really get connected to who I am, and not just me. In turn, my kids
Mm-hmm.
get connected to who they are, and my
Absolutely.
ex-wife gets connected to who she is, and my
Mm-hmm.
parents get connected because I create this like domino effect for them. And it's a constant journey. Like I have
It is.
somebody I work with who does yoga, like he's overseas, but we check in every once in a while, and he's like, don't do anything, just go inside yourself, really understand who you are, because you're not gonna be any good to anybody else if you're not good to yourself first,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Exactly. The way
yeah,
that we love ourselves is the way that we're gonna love others.
right, right,
Right. And when we, something that has been very valuable for me as well to understand is that I can't make another human being feel anything. It's somebody chooses how to feel, right?
mm,
Just like somebody else cannot make me feel anything. So if I'm upset, if I react in anger towards someone, I'm choosing that anger. Somebody's
right,
not doing something to 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 make me feel something. We don't control human beings in that way, but
right,
it is something that's so common to just blame somebody else. You made me angry.
mm,
You made me sad. You
right,
did this to me. You broke my heart. How can somebody break your heart? You're alive.
right, yeah,
If you broke my heart, I'd be dead.
right, right,
Right? Or you stabbed me in the back. Right? We say those things so loosely when they're not actually happening. And another human being has no control over our emotions, unless we give
mm.
our power away. That's what it looks like for
That's a
us to
big
give our
thing.
power away,
Yeah,
is to
that's
say, Anoop, you made me angry. You pissed
yeah,
me off, Anoop,
right,
and then
right.
I put the blame on you. But then, it's something that we all use so that we don't have to be responsible for our own behavior.
I was
Right. And
gonna
it's a
say
way
that,
that we
yeah,
can become victims, because when
yeah,
we become victims, we don't have to be responsible. It's a
right,
great scapegoat. We
right.
get we get people feeling sorry for ourselves, for us. We get people to love us or nurture
Hmm.
us, but then it's not it doesn't come from a healthy state of being, right?
Right, right,
It doesn't come from power, because it also has us stay as victims, and then
right,
we don't get to live a really fulfilled life. We
right.
don't
And
get to show up authentically and vulnerably
yeah,
and be ourselves. There's nothing better than that.
right. And I love all of that. I love like everything that you've said there about really just being authentic. And you touched upon something about male and masculine and feminine energy,
Yes.
right? Masculine and feminine energy, the masculine side is that, hey, I'm that protector. There's
Mm-hmm.
clarity in what I'm doing. I'm going to be focused. While the feminine energy is, oh, I'm nurturing, I'm loyal, I'm loving, I'm caring, supportive, and all of that, right? And
Yeah.
we use the words here's masculine, here's feminine, assuming it's for male and female, and it's
Yes.
not. It's not, right?
No, it
There's
lives
a
in both of
balance.
us.
Yeah, there's a balance, and we have both masculine and feminine energy in the both of us, right? And having being able to balance that, and that's where like I want to talk about now, because we've spoken a lot about attachment versus commitment and
Yes.
about stereotypes. Now I want to talk about how do we actually use what we've got, what in our toolbox to create a fulfilling relationship, whether
Mm.
that be spouses, whether that be kids, whether that be family,
Yes.
parents. How do we do that? What are the tools that we can use? Because there's
Mm-hmm.
probably so many people out there that are in relationships because they just got used to it. Oh, it's just something I'm used to. Oh, it's just something that dealing with.
Yeah.
But
People
what can
get
you do?
comfortable and they
Yeah,
settle,
right.
right? We've been
Hmm.
conditioned to settle because we're more afraid of being alone
Right,
than settling for something that doesn't work in our lives.
right. Right. But it all comes from the word communication. It all, like, for
Yes.
me, it's
Hmm.
actually, and as I said before, it's
Hmm.
you, whatever comes out your mouth creates, your words create your world, which we've heard
Yes.
so many times. And it's like you get to create whatever you want in your relationship through communication.
Hmm.
You get to create something through communication. You get to resolve anything through communication.
Everything.
And when vulnerability is part of that, when sharing is part of that, in both male and female,
Hmm.
what that does, it opens up that space of, like, that intimacy, right? And that's something we want to touch on as well, because I know that that's your forte, intimacy, right? It's
Intimacy.
like, yeah, but that creates it because you have, your words, your conversations that you have,
Hmm.
the connection by even, and communication isn't necessarily about what you say or what you listen with your ears. It's actually what you see, like, with your eyes as well. It's like
Yes.
physically how you're there.
Everything.
Are you fully
Your
present to?
energy, your being,
Yeah,
your body language.
yeah,
It's not just coming from speech, right? It's just how you show up
yeah.
with
And
your
imagine,
beingness as a human
in
being.
like, we all hold things in, the communication that we have, we all hold it in
Hmm.
because it's a fear of, I don't want to hurt anyone, or hey, I don't know, I don't know what to say at this point. But it is the foundation of any relationship. It's a communication, right? Is how knowing how
Hmm.
to respond to that person, knowing what to ask that person, knowing how to be that space for that person. And when I say space, what I mean is actually just being there for that person, so they
Hmm.
know that
Being
you've got their
present.
back. Yeah, you've got their back and you're present.
Focused and present.
Yeah, there's no phone, there's no issue. You two are together, and I do the exercises like that with my clients. Where for 5 minutes they just kind of say what you need to say what you need to say. That's it, right? As men, we want to fix things. As I said, we want to fix it like
Hmm.
right away. Our friend or our spouse or somebody has a problem. We're like, okay, what am I going to do to fix it? I know I've been like victim to that.
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, what can I do? Blah 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 blah. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, it's like, hey, stop. All I needed you to do is listen, because I make it worse by wanting to try and fix things
Yeah.
rather than, hey, that person's a big person. I don't need
Yeah.
to fix anything. I just need to
Yeah.
listen, because there's a space of just listening to somebody is
Yeah.
more important than the words that come out your mouth.
Yes.
So that's, for me, the foundation of creating the relationship that you want. The fulfilling relationship is first connecting to your core values,
Yes.
right? Really having a balance of male and feminine energy,
Yes.
communicating in a way that's forward thinking. I always say, what comes out your mouth, first thing, does it add value to the
Hmm.
conversation? Are
Hmm.
you doing it with an open heart? And is there possibility in what you're saying? Is it moving towards something that's possible? So
Hmm.
having those three things, like, really opens up a space for something that's continually growing. Like, a relationship is never going to be, hey, I need to get over there and I'm going to get there. It's
Hmm.
two whole
So.
and complete people. Yeah, two whole and complete people
Hmm.
are gonna actually help each other grow and support. And that's why having the balance of male and female is, you get to actually
Yes.
help and support each other. That's what a relationship is. Whether
Mm.
it's a spousal relationship, whether it's family, friends, you get to be the support for them. You know that, hey, I got your back and I'm never gonna let you slip. We're gonna walk shoulder to shoulder, you
Yes.
know. And if I can share quickly, if that's okay with you, Maria, it's my brother. I just want to share, like, my brother passed away a year ago in May 11th, and it's been a trying day for me today, and I really got the fact of a sense of loss, a sense of, like, wow, now this relationship is severed, it's gone, like, how am I going to stay connected to my brother?
Mm.
And I got connected today that physically, yeah, he was there in the shell of a body,
Mhm.
right? But,
Mhm.
like, mentally, like, spiritually,
Mhm.
emotionally, he's connected to me,
Yes.
right? It's like he says, I got your back,
Yes.
right? So that relationship doesn't end when someone passes. That relationship doesn't end when, there's a breakup or you don't see them for a while. Like, we're living in COVID, and there's a lot of couples who are living in like,
Separate.
isolation, and they don't get to see each other.
Yeah.
There are so many of people out there, but
Yes.
it's actually knowing that that person's got your back, knowing that, don't worry, I got you. is
Yes.
what really creates that, like, the space for people, right? And that's, for me, it's so important, and it's such a thing that's dear to my heart, that communication is like the key, the foundation of all of this,
Mm,
and being that space for people and having that space to love, whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. All it matters, we all bleed the same.
hmm.
We all just want to be loved. We all just want,
Yes, at the
and
core
that's
of
it.
everything, as human beings, we just want to be loved. We want to be understood. We want
Right.
to feel connected.
Yeah.
All of
Yeah.
us.
Right.
I'm gonna touch on some things that you said because they were so valuable. But first, like I want to say, we have Elsa who joined us, Neil, we have Candice, Ziegler, Natasha, Charmaine,
Whoa,
we
love
have
it.
Sona, we have Anthony. Um, Are there any questions you guys have? What do you think about commitment versus attachment? What are some
Hmm.
things? Share with us in the comments. What are some things that have worked for you in the past in relationships,
Right.
whether it's a romantic relationship or your relationships with families or friends? Um, the next thing that I want to touch on with you is when you said about communication and you started talking about the relationship. For me, why I find it so important, to really walk away from attachment, which means that, okay, this person has committed to me, whether it's in
Hmm.
a common law relationship or whether it's in a marriage or
Right.
um, however your relationship looks, we then become kind of like settled, and we're like comfortable. We're like, I don't have to work in this relationship anymore. I got
Right.
this person.
I
Like,
got them.
they're
That's it.
mine.
Yeah, that's it.
Done. I
Right.
did all the work to get them, and like, I bought the flowers, or I cooked the meals, I gave the massages, I did this, that, and the other. Like, I'm
Wah,
done.
wah,
Like,
wah. Okay. Yeah.
it's in the
Right.
bag.
Right.
And then that has us be complacent and lazy and disconnected in our relationships. But when we're committed and we choose
Hmm.
the person every day, and something that I find very valuable, and I know other people do in their relationships too, is like having a checkup, like every month or every other month, sitting down and what's working about our relationship, what's not
Hmm.
working about our relationship,
Right.
what can we adjust, because as I mentioned before, we're human beings, we're transforming every day.
Right.
Every experience that touches us creates something new within our souls, within our spirits,
Hmm.
right? So the person that you were a month ago is not the person that's sitting in front of me now.
Right.
The person that I
Yeah.
was a month ago is not the person that is sitting here today. And
Hmm.
so really, really sitting down and doing a checkup on your relationship or on your marriage to make it fun,
Yeah.
put some music on, grab some wine, like, you know, um, but yeah, I
Well,
think that's really important. And when we come from commitment versus
mhm.
attachment, where we think I got this person in the bag, I don't have to do anything else, it
Right.
actually renews that commitment every day.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's the juice. That's the beauty of having a
That
relationship.
is. Yeah. It's actually, you get to
That's
reinvent it. Yeah, you get to reinvent it every single day.
your relationship. You
Yeah,
don't
and you.
you don't have to take on what's prescribed by society as to what a relationship is supposed to look like. You
Mhm.
actually create your life with that other
Yeah.
person, because this is a partnership.
Yeah, with
Where
fun, with
you share
joy, with
stuff with
happiness.
each
Yeah, with all of it, with fun and joy. None of it has to be
other.
heavy.
Yeah,
Right. Love it.
yeah, and you get to make it fun, like bring some spiciness into it.
Yeah. Well, that's what we deal with nowadays. We have, here it is, we're in a relationship, and I get there are so many people that just can't leave the relationships. There's so many people that are dealing with being in the relationships, and it's just, as you said, complacency. But if you work on, it's like working on yourself every day. It should be like breathing. It should be like, I'm committed to this marriage, to this relationship with my mom, or this relationship with my kids. I'm
Yeah,
committed to that, and if I actually stand in what's possible every single day and
yeah,
resolve any unresolved communication or withholding of anything, I actually get to be free and they get to be free,
yeah.
right? That's where it is. And that's why, you know, we don't always live in that way, and that's unfortunate. And that's what I want to break, that stigma, and I'm sure you do as well. And I would love to,
Absolutely.
like, anyone else want to, like, create. We should be creating workshops. Let's create something, Maria. Let's
Yeah,
create
you and I are
something
gonna
to,
create a workshop around this.
yeah, get people like ready to be in love with themselves. Then you
Absolutely.
can give that love out there to the world, because
I know
that,
that that's a big basis for you, love and communication,
yeah.
and having a created relationship. I know that in your business, that's something that's very powerful that you guide your clients through. And like
Hmm.
for me, in my coaching business, I guide women,
Right.
and for me, like in my programs, what the basis and the foundation is self-love.
Mm.
And then releasing and being okay with all the lies that we tell ourselves and all the
Right.
self-sabotage and the negative talk, right? And then learning to forgive ourselves, which is
Mm.
very important, and then learning to trust ourselves, because I really believe that that's a very powerful foundation for every area of our lives, not just in romantic relationships or relationships with family, but in our businesses or our jobs or our friendships and anything that we want to build in life. When it comes from that foundation, it's very powerful.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest deterrent in life itself is living in fear. Like,
Yeah,
fear can, like, ruin it.
paralyzed.
Fear, paralyze. I'm reading Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill right now.
Oh, I love, that's
Um,
one of my favorite books.
yeah, and it's so, like, talking about fear, talking
Oh,
about, how the devil takes control of that. It's like such a powerful. It's opened my eyes up to taking inventory in my life. Like, where
yes.
have fear run my life? Where has failure of doing something and then, that, forget it, I'm not going to do it anymore. It's with relationships. We're fearing that person. I'm going to open my heart to that person, and that
Mhm.
person's going to break. That person's going to break up with me. I'm never going to see him again, and I'm giving them everything I've got. We live in that fear constantly. We live in the fear of somebody wanting to find somebody else, another man or another woman, jealousy.
Yeah.
But
Oh, you
that's
better
just,
not look at that girl.
yeah, that's all. Yeah, that's all in here, right? Actually get connected to what's living out there in the world. That's where the communication and being open enough to know and trust yourself
Mhm.
and your partner or your, family, whoever else, to trust
Whoever.
those people, to understand that it can
Mhm.
all come from
Mhm.
love, and it will all come from communication, and it will all come from commitment. So that's our foundation of this conversation today, is really love, communication, and commitment.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
right.
So I have my friend Anthony, he's saying relationships are a mirror to ourselves. And the more work we do on ourselves, the better our relationships will be. It's
Oh,
all
I
about
love
the
it.
work. And I so agree. And
Anthony, I
Anthony,
love it. Yeah.
I'm so looking forward. Anthony and I are having a live next week on Friday.
Oh, I'm there.
We're going to talk about sacred sexuality. So
Wow.
join us next week as well.
Love it.
So I totally agree with this statement. The people in our lives are a mirror for us,
Mm,
and we all came here to really discover ourselves through our relationships.
right. Yeah. And yeah,
And there are those safe spaces where we can actually, you know, be vulnerable with our shit.
yeah, yeah. Be vulnerable with that. Let
Yeah,
people know. Like, really be open. Cry. Like, men start crying.
yes.
Women cry. Keep doing it. Like,
It's
don't
not
stop.
enough. Like just
Don't stop.
try, just like be, and
Yeah.
it's that safe space where we could actually be really vulnerable and have the space to grow and have love and support and in a nurturing space that somebody else creates by
Yeah. And I
being
just,
with us.
I just want to say, like, what Anthony was saying. It's like he talks about it being the mirror. So for me, I mean, my brother, as I said, passed away, and it's
Yeah.
actually my family members. I had to be strong for them. So in my mind, it was like I had to be strong for them. But I
Yeah.
cried by myself for, like, this afternoon for half an hour. But then I didn't want people to see that I was crying. So in relationships, I'm the same way. I don't want to. I don't want to share sometimes,
Mhm.
because it's like, no, no, no. I don't want to tell you that I'm vulnerable. I just want
Mhm.
to kind of figure it out myself, even though I don't know what the hell I'm doing, right? But he's right. It's like, if I give myself, this is in my experience, if I give myself the space to be like, hey, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and I'm lost,
Yeah.
and I need your help. The other person's gonna be like, I got you, don't worry, and then when they feel that way, they can say it to you. So Anthony, thank you for that question. That's such a powerful question, and great conversation.
Beautiful. Thank you. So the next thing that I want to touch on is intimacy. What
Mm.
is intimacy to you? Uh,
What is intimacy to
yeah.
me? Right. So, I mean, intimacy to me, when we hear intimacy, it's like sex, it's like naked bodies, it's like, but for me, intimacy is actually, and I think me and you, Maria, touched upon this
Yes.
earlier, is where you can bare your soul, where
Yes.
you can actually
Vulnerable with yourself.
put yourself on the line and
Yes.
risk somebody,
Risk
hurting
being
you.
hurt.
Yeah, but be okay with it. Be like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I trust myself and that person enough to say
Yeah.
that and to be truly who you are, to be authentic. Don't cover yourself up with a mask. Don't cover yourself up with the makeup. Don't cover yourself up with,
Yes.
whatever. It's actually just be who you are. So for me, intimacy means you can be naked with your soul.
Soul.
Yeah. I
Absolutely.
took that
Amen.
from you. Yeah, I took that from you, Maria, and I loved it. So I'm running with it.
Yeah. Intimacy for me, it goes, it's so much deeper than in a romantic relationship. It's so much deeper than being able to be intimate sexually or being naked with another human being. Like you said, is actually being naked with my soul, is being able to
Mm,
trust, being vulnerable, and taking a chance of being hurt. Um, without without putting that in the space, not
right.
thinking, oh, I'm gonna get hurt, but actually just being myself, being authentic,
Hmm.
um sharing the things that scare me, sharing the things that come up for me, um in really being authentic, being self-expressed with what my values are, with what I want, you
Right.
know something that I notice, when speaking with women, is that when I ask them, what do you want in a relationship? A
Hmm.
lot of the time, what they say, I don't know, or I want to see, what this person wants in a relationship, or like they direct
Right.
it to what a man wants, or what they expect a man to do for them, and it
Right.
doesn't come from within. You know, looking at one's soul and saying, well, this is how I want to be loved, these are the boundaries that I want to create, this is the kind of relationship that I want to have, this is the level of communication that I want to have with
Hmm.
another human being in a relationship.
Right. Right.
and
Love it.
and and so intimacy for me is also having the strength to say what you want,
Oh, I
especially
love
for
that.
women. Like, say
Yeah.
what you want, ladies.
Yeah.
What you want in relationship, say what you want in the damn bedroom, say what you want in your businesses, say what
Right.
you want at work, say what you want with your friends, like, say it.
So let me ask you, Maria,
Mhm.
if intimacy was available, like what is possible? What is possible if intimacy is available for people in relationships?
I can tell you, like, for myself, I'll give you the example of my relationship with both of my daughters.
Hmm.
So what's available for me, because I have an intimate relationship with both of them, is a lot of honesty, and
Right.
it's a lot of authenticity. We go through a lot of really heavy things that happen in life.
Hmm.
Can deal with anxiety, and they deal with other things, and some of the conversations and some of the situations are pretty intense. And what we've created, because of the level of intimacy that we have, is that no matter what happens, we always go back to love. So we could be
Uh,
upset at each other. We can, have differences of opinion. We all have
hmm.
very strong characters. Both of my daughters
Right.
are powerful leaders. And they don't just, take on, if I say something, they don't just say, okay, they question, which I
Right.
love that they've grown up like that. They question everything, and
Good.
and and they want to make sure that it's something that is aligned with their values in their own life, that they're
Love
not
it.
just subscribing to what I want them to do or what I'm suggesting. And
Hmm.
so it creates those conversations. But at the end of it all, no matter what happens in our lives, we always come back to love. We
Love it.
always come back to unity. We always come back to compassion. We always come back to
Hmm.
forgiveness. So it leaves us in this beautiful space all the time. And
Love
and
it.
for me, that's what creating intimacy is in our
Love
relationship.
it. Thank you, Maria. And I know it's coming up to an hour. But
Yes.
I mean,
Elsa,
yeah.
Elsa, I just want to read you a comment that Elsa made. She says, "We think your brother really be in your own space with him. You will feel him within your space. Your own intimacy and vulnerability will allow you to feel him with you."
Wow. Thank
That's
you,
so
Elsa, for that. I
beautiful,
love that.
Elsa.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Hi,
Yeah.
Amber. Hi, Isabel.
Thank you. Yeah. So, I mean, what's next? What we did? What's next? What's happening?
Oh, you and I are definitely going to create a workshop. So watch out for that, people. We're going
Okay.
to announce it. We
Yeah.
definitely have to create something together.
And
Um,
I just want to honor you, Maria. Like, I really want to honor, like, really thankful for creating this and, giving me the space to say what I need to say today. And really, hopefully, it touched people out there. And, not hopefully, but it will. I know it will. I
yeah,
know people,
yeah,
just really get connected to everything that we said today and what got created today. And this is what it looks like to be raw, right? Friday Night Raw.
yeah,
This is it, right?
yeah. Friday Night Raw conversation. So I am so grateful for you in my life, for your friendship, for your vulnerability, for the type of conversations that we get to have in our friendship, in the
Mm,
intimacy in our friendship, in the fun and adventure in our friendship.
yes.
And just like who you are for me is this powerful man in my life who, I can count on. And we had a conversation before I even began my coaching business about my coaching business and all of that. And you were this amazing space where I could just be with myself and my insecurities and my fears and all of that. And you just listened to me. So I
Mm,
love and appreciate you for everything that you are in my life and who
thank you.
you grow up to be. And I want to leave everyone with, what is it, that you want to create in your relationships? How do you want your relationships to go?
Hmm.
I invite you to look inside and take responsibility for the ways that maybe you're not showing up in those relationships.
Right.
Whenever I've had any circumstance happen in any of my relationships, I always ask the questions like, what am I responsible for that I can take responsibility for? What can I, where have I been an a-hole in this relationship?
Hmm.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm like, where have I been an asshole? Because I have been.
Take inventory. Yeah.
Responsibility for that, so that I can create that space of vulnerability with somebody can tell me, well, this is how you've been in our
Right.
relationship, and it doesn't work for me, and without me being defensive, and without
Hmm.
me wanting to prove something and wanting to be right. Wanting to be right is something that kills love and it kills relationships.
Yeah. As soon as you want to be right.
Somebody's right and somebody has to be wrong.
Yeah. Well, as soon as you try and be right, as soon as you're trying to defend yourself, you're not coming from nothing.
Yeah.
There's still something there. So give that up. So yeah, take on that. And I want to thank everybody who was
Yes.
on this with us tonight, because it
Yes.
became an intimate, raw conversation. You created the space as well, and you created this like intimate conversation. And I love and honor each and every one of you for being
Absolutely.
on this. And Maria, thank you once again. And we're going to do this again, and there's
We
going to be
are.
more of
You're
us
gonna come
together.
on again.
Yeah, there's going to be more of this stuff happening. We're going to be creating workshops, talks, whatever. So watch out for us, because you're going to see our faces more often.
Yes. Thank
Right.
you. I love you. I love you all. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.